Hello, and thank you for joining me today on this video titled Communication as part of the Breaking the Cycle Starting Conversations series. Communication is defined as a process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system of symbols, signs, or behavior. When thinking of that definition, I want to ask you, what is the difference between listening and hearing? Listening is to hear something with thoughtful attention. Hearing is the process, function, or power of perceiving sounds. It's important to note that active listening is when you are paying attention to what someone else is saying, understanding what they are saying, and providing feedback. Active listening encourages openness, honesty, and success. Now, we will discuss the 4 styles of communication. An individual who presents a passive style of communication avoids expressing their opinions and feelings, protects their rights, and identifies and meets their needs. An individual who presents an aggressive style of communication expresses their opinions and needs and advocates for themselves in a way that can sometimes violate the rights of others. On the other hand, an individual who presents an assertive style of communication clearly states and advocates for their rights and needs without violating those of others by using I statements and active listening. And an individual who presents a passive-aggressive style of communication appears passive but acts out in subtle and indirect ways, such as sarcasm, subtle sabotage, or struggling to acknowledge anger. Let's take a few minutes to reflect. What styles of communication do you prefer to use? What styles of communication do you prefer not to use? Note that you can use more than one and use different styles in different situations or around different people. So now that we've talked about the 4 styles of communication, please pause the video and answer the questions. Now, let's dive into open versus closed communication. Open communication occurs when the sender and receiver share all the necessary information for both of them to complete their assigned task. There are no hidden agendas or misrepresentation of information. Open communication is facilitated by effective communication. Note the example conversation on the screen. Closed communication is communication which doesn't allow for expressions of feelings, ideas, individuality, or creativity. Compared to the example of open communication, this example of closed communication is straight to the point with no room of feelings, ideas, or creativity. Along with the styles of communication in open versus closed, it's important to utilize and pay attention to nonverbal communication. When effectively communicating, it is important to make eye contact. It is suggested to make eye contact 50 to 70% of the time. When communicating, facial expressions allow us to interpret the message further. Smiling, frowning, rolling your eyes, and even scowling are examples of facial expressions that can be used to indicate how an individual may be feeling when speaking. Space and distance are also important when it comes to effective communication. Personal space refers to the distance between the people as they communicate. Some individuals value their personal space, and when one is too close, they can tend to feel uncomfortable. You may know hand gestures as talking with your hands. In effective communication, hand gestures emphasize speech and allow others to interpret the message. It's always important to remember, though, that talking with your hands too much can be a distraction. Lastly, physical touch. Physical touch in communication expresses feelings or emotions. Like personal space, some may tend to feel uncomfortable with too much or depending on the conversation. Let's reflect. What types of nonverbal communication are you most reliant on? What types do you need to adjust to? Please pause the video and take a few minutes to answer the questions. To wrap up, we will review effective communication skills. Throughout the video, I connected what we have discussed to effective communication. Effective communication is the process of exchanging ideas, thoughts, opinions, knowledge, and data so that the message is received and understood with clarity and purpose. When we communicate effectively, both the sender and receiver feel satisfied. Effective communication includes active listening, which shows the listener is hearing and acknowledging what the speaker has to say. It also includes reflective listening, which involves the listener reflecting on what the speaker is saying. Reflective listening can involve reflecting on the words the person used or reflecting on the feeling that the person expressed. With effective communication, it's also important to describe and explain your feelings to understand how you feel. You want to speak clearly because that involves using the correct tone and the right words. You will always want to consider your body language and tone as they allow you to express feelings and provide messages with more impact. Lastly, you want to speak with honesty. Remember to remain true to yourself. Take ownership of your feelings and speak what is on your mind in a respectful manner. Stay connected with Breaking the Cycle by visiting our website below. This video was made through the Breaking the Cycle program, an initiative of the Adventure Group that is focused on bringing awareness to and preventing adverse childhood experiences and their negative impacts by working with children, families, schools, and communities. Breaking the Cycle and its related materials, including this video, are made possible by the Claude Worthington Benedum Foundation.